Broadcasting live from the Zimmer Communications World Headquarters.
Great news for the American people.
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert, featuring Stephanie Bell, News Director Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, and Hannah, the producer.
This is why we listen to you.
Get ready, pal.
And now, here's your host, Branden Rathert.
I might add, if I didn't, I'd be sleeping alone. You have to explain, I better explain that. Some don't know what I'm talking about. My wife's a Philly girl. All right, where are we going?
We're heading this way for him.
All right, we're going to go over and get the briefing.
I almost feel bad because it seems like, right? I do, Hannah. I really do.
No, you don't.
You really don't.
It seems like this time every morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, right about 6:08, John. We've got here's the latest. This is part of our job, highlighting what those elected servants are doing, and that's what the President of the United States is doing. I don't know what's going on there.
I almost think, I hope someone in his circle is like, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. And if you just, where are we going? Like, if they just say, like, hey, Joe, if you don't know where you're going, just stand still, be quiet, we'll come grab your arm and move you. It would be so much better if he just stayed silent. I wonder if they're coaching him on that.
It's like, whenever you're a couple and you're trying to leave the party early and you got that signal, right? As a couple, you talk out this, hey, honey, I don't want to stay real long. Let's work out a signal when it's time to go, like I'll wink or touch my nose or rub my belly or something. That's what they got to be doing for Joe. Joe, we need to give you a signal. If you're lost, you don't know what day of the week it is, just stop and start patting your head and rubbing your tummy at the same time, and we'll send the Secret Service to save you, bud.
He said,
I don't think he takes direction well.
Yeah, and he's like, remember that one time I gave you the signal where I tried to shake the ghost's hand? That's what you told me, and I got in trouble for that one, too.
Let's see if he can clean it up here.
All right, God save the Queen, man.
Why are they clapping?
They don't know. They have no idea. Joe doesn't know what's going on. His constituents, the people that like him, the people that voted, nobody knows what's going on. They're just like,
Yay!
But he is still going to be tough to beat. That with all the, he has
leave it up to the news director to come in and ruin a good time, everybody.
But isn't Kennedy's polling at like 20%, which is like unheard of, right?
That's pretty. I tell you, if you get those guys in a debate, Kennedy knows his stuff.
He does.
He really does. But the president had a rally with the AFL-CIO, and the unions seem to be backing him. So he's got, like I said, with the Electoral College and with the, 30 years ago, there'd be no way you could win with that platform. There'd be no way you could win with it. Now, well, you could.
As a matter of fact, one of the things we are going to be doing this morning, we have some post-indictment poll numbers for the presidential race. Cardinals legend doesn't think he is a legend in traffic there at the new Rocheport Bridge over the weekend. Some of the stories we are covering for you this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I am Branden Rathert. Stephanie Bell back. Whew, thank goodness.
Yay.
I'm surprised she's not mad at you.
Well, we'll get there. There's time. We have plenty of time.
It's only 6:11, folks.
There's Mr. Houseworth.
It's good to see everybody. Welcome back, Stephanie.
John Marsh is here.
Good morning.
There's producer Hannah.
Roll the tape.
874-9390. 874-9390. So even some press reporters, when Joe Biden said he's just making a speech in like Connecticut, and I think nobody even knows what he was talking about. And at the end of the speech, he said, God save the Queen. And so some of the people saw this, and the people that know reporters that follow the president are like, hey, David, what the hell? What was the press poll reporters are like, I don't know. I have no idea. Usually they can give you some insight, like, hey, every time we follow Joe when he says this, that's what. But even the press poll reporters are going, I don't know. John Fetterman hanging out with the president in Pennsylvania. John Fetterman, we don't fault John Fetterman. He has issues. He should do him and George Santos. You just retire. Do your constituency a favor. I'm shocked that anybody voted for Fetterman in the first place. So he's with Joe this weekend. We've heard Joe's efforts. John Fetterman.
And now I'm standing next to the president again, next to a collapsed bridge here.
Did he call? So they're in a hall, by the way.
They're not actually near a collapsed bridge?
No.
It's a metaphor. It's a metaphor that works.
And I want to make sure, again, I'm always about the fact check. John, did I hear right?
And now I'm standing next to the president again, next to a collapsed bridge here.
Did he call Joe Biden a collapsed bridge?
Maybe he was planning a fact-finding trip to Roachport.
And he's not
And
done.
he is here to commit to work with the governor and the delegation to make sure that we get this fixed quick.
Sorry, Steph, you had a question?
There's an extra There's an extra syllable in there.
Degradation. And we're not making fun of the dude. We're questioning why people voted for this guy.
Fast as well, too. This is a president that is committed to infrastructure.
He's having a hard time talking.
Come on, Brian.
He had a stroke.
I know, but he had issues beforehand, man.
I understand that, but I mean, it's the stroke is clearly now that's up to the voters, though. About his condition, but I think you can tell the stroke had an impact on his speech.
Yeah, and then on top of that, the dual kind of law of the inflation bill.
Oh, man.
That is,
okay, that's enough.
That's hard to listen to.
Yeah.
That's why these people, we talk about these self-serving attitudes. We know this study that we've recently hyped here on the show, the narcissist, these people, how narcissistic they are. And you can include Trump in that bunch, by the way, too. These people that know, regardless of what's going on, there comes a point in time, you got to have a grasp on the reality about yourself and say, you know what? I'm not cut out to do this job. I remember when my grandfather turned over the keys to the car, and it broke a lot of people's hearts. But there comes a point in time, if you have some self-awareness, you got to give up the keys to the car.
Well, and even if you don't have self-awareness, you hope that you're surrounded by family members who have a serious conversation with you and say, hey, because, I mean, I think we all have had people in our lives who, have struggled with various issues, and you would hope that someone in his life, after hearing that, would say, hey, let's either get into some more therapy to get you back on track after the stroke, or let's take a step back. You did the 30 days of rest. Clearly it's not working, but it seems like, in my mind, it seems like whoever's in his life is holding on to that seat with such grip because it's part of their own ego, and putting that power and that seat and that politics over the person that is John Fetterman. And that's what's really sad.
Because haven't we all had somebody like, hey, Houseworth, I noticed this is going on. When it comes to a health issue, you have a friend that might pull you aside and say, hey, listen, you got to start doing something, whatever your health issue is.
And certainly we have seen that. And it could be a situation, I don't know, because obviously health records are protected under HIPAA. It's a little bit different with him because he is a sitting U.S. senator, but it could be that when he writes, and I'm thinking out loud, when he writes or does some work or types, maybe it's maybe he can function better. He clearly. I've not heard those clips until this morning. But again, a stroke does take an impact. Some of them on speech ability, they do.
And this is why all this matters, John. It's not about sitting here, let's make fun of the guy because he's a Democrat. It's because he is serving a large number of people in the state of Pennsylvania. He is serving them in the Senate.
I think we're giving the handlers too much credit because a lot of these folks in politics, at this level, they're all ego. They're about ego. And, gosh, look at all the people that went through the Trump administration that he, showed the door if they tried to criticize him or anything. I think we're giving the handlers too much credit.
So you're saying, and I guess, too, with a handler, you're not going to tell Trump what to do.
You can try, and then you better have your resume updated.
Because that's going to end your day. Your day's not going to end very well.
Same thing with Biden, I bet. I think that kind of cuts across any kind of political boundaries when you get to people at this level of power.
Because it's the ego. And by the way, and I do believe this, and I've said it for years, and I still believe it. I think we would be better served by having more females in politics. And I'm so serious about that, I won't even use the word chicks. We should have more females in politics.
4.
We should have 4. Vicky Hartzler, Stephanie Bell, Holly Rader, and...
The vice president.
No.
No.
I was going to say Carrie Turgeon.
874-9390, 874. But we should have more. I think we should have more women in politics. And here's why. Because I think women, there's less ego. It's less peeing on the fire hydrant because I think dudes are famous for that. But I think we should have more. I think, we could potentially get more done.
Well, and if you recall, when the State House broke down, it was like the women in the Senate who basically came together and said, let's be adults here and let's move around. Now, they didn't really get it back together, right. But a couple of times they kind of swung the ship back in the right direction. And they were, I think they were a force. And you talk about people like Senator O'Loughlin. I think they really made a difference in the State House the last 2 years and have really helped the cause.
Carla Esslinger be part of that group too, and Holly Rader, in both of them could face primary challenges next year when they come up for re-election. So we'll see. I mean, it's a fine line they walk because they're representing very deep red districts, but that gets back to the Republican issue as well. The Republican majority in these especially red counties.
Do you have an opinion on that one way or the other? If we'd be better served by more women in politics?
I don't have an opinion, but I can
How about
tell you.
Van Halen? Better singer? You like Van Halen better with David Lee Roth or Sammy Hagar?
I saw that on Super 70 Sports. They actually brought it up this weekend, so I'll pass on that.
30 seconds. Traffic over the Rocheport Bridge over the weekend.
It was a mess on Saturday, but Mitchell Kaminsky from our news partner KMIZ went through there. Not much on Friday night. Sunday was actually, with that rain, they got done pretty early, so there was a little backup on Sunday. About 15-minute delay both directions, which is a little surprising because it went back in one direction 4 miles, the other was 6 miles. But the biggest thing, people were moving cones out of the way and driving through roadblocks. Mitchell saw that during his live shot, at 10 o'clock, and he said the drivers were frustrated. Hannah Falcon also noticed that. You can't do that, folks.
Caught on the interstate, just rerouting traffic. Way to go, Mid-Missouri.
They did that. Now, they could have been drivers from elsewhere, but that happened at 10 o'clock during his live shot.
But ideally this morning, they're not rerouting traffic this morning. Stop that. Yeah. You'll be good. All right, coming up, off the text, 874-9390. Sandy says, welcome back, Steph. We're glad you're back, too, just in time to do the daily DC Rundown about 5 minutes from now.
Well, if you're into $1 million bets, I would bet you haven't heard this name for 2024.
I am in.
Mayor shows a different perspective. They have a different vision.
Some kind words for the Miami mayor, Francis Suarez, announcing he is running for president. Don't be real impressed, though. That happens to be his wife, Gloria Suarez. It'd be like if our older woman, Stephanie Bell, she gets her husband to campaign for her, and he would say all these kind things that would be true. We would still be impressed even if it was your husband. That's getting us into today's Daily DC Rundown with Stephanie Bell.
Don't be too impressed. We've been talking a little bit about self-awareness, and apparently no mayor has ever been elected president. Still, that doesn't, I really know nothing about Miami Mayor Francis Suarez, except that now he thinks he's going to run for president. He announced his campaign. I was checking the numbers, and I think it's really interesting. 20 presidents previously served as governors, 18 U.S. reps, 17 previously served as U.S. senators, 15 as vice presidents. 5 presidents have never been were never elected to public office before they were the president. How crazy is that?
Trump is one of them.
Trump is one of them.
How about that? I like that. Little history lesson with Stephanie Bell on the Daily DC Rundown.
So it doesn't look good for Miami Mayor.
That's the point of that story.
It is looking, it's also, it's looking good for Joe Biden right now in 2024. He's got 4 fundraisers in the San Fran area. I think this week, and then he's got 20 fundraisers over the last part of June. He's expected to show up to half of those, and so he is, he's
can't even show up to ask for money in person.
He's got to take a rest. I guess Kamala's on the campaign trail too, so there will be different events highlighting different people.
Also, things are looking good for Joe Biden, but not the rest of the country.
It's like this presidency. Seriously, it's like an episode of the Benny Hill Show. It's just insane. It really is. It's like Keystone Cops up in here.
Well, there is some actual work being done by the Biden administration. Apparently, Secretary of State Antony Blinken is finishing up his 2-day visit to Beijing. The most important accomplishment of this 2-day meeting is the agreement that they are willing to talk. Now, has anyone backed off either of their positions? No, but the only thing is we are willing to talk. Does that make it better?
I don't know. Is that do you give them points for just being willing? Because isn't that kind of the start?
Yeah, but like if you're in a fight with someone and they'll talk to you, but they won't like come over to your side or compromise in any way, I'd rather just like slam the door in your face and be done with it. And like, is that really an agreement?
Let's go on to
I think
this
so.
is how we should start doing the Daily DC Rundown.
It's terrible. It's noticeable because Blinken is notable because Blinken is the highest level U.S. official to visit China since the Biden administration began. The other thing, we're getting some pushback, and this is interesting because we're still waiting for that Supreme Court decision about student loan forgiveness. And I think about this like I think about the FAFSA paperwork, right? You kind of know before you fill it out whether or not you're going to qualify. So maybe I don't fill it out, but like it's not because I'm not getting the student or the FAFSA money because I didn't fill the paperwork out. I'm not getting it because I know I don't qualify. So now the media is covering this Medicaid purging, they're calling Medicaid purging, and they're saying most people are getting dropped for not filling the paperwork out. And if you recall, we weren't checking eligibility at all during COVID. And so now the government's like, hey, by the way, you still have to be eligible. But they're saying, hey, these people are getting dropped off the rolls because they're not filling out the paperwork. Is that really why? Or is it because they know they don't qualify, so they're just not filling out paperwork when it would be like an act of futility, right?
And that is your Daily DC Rundown with Stephanie Bell. And that's why we are glad she is back. Coming up a few minutes from now, Cardinals legend doesn't think that he's a legend. That story coming up about 5 minutes from now here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Has America been fair to Donald
Buz hits it in the air to center. We will see you tomorrow night.
Man. Game 6, 2011 World Series. Cardinals third baseman David Freese, that home run in extra innings after he hit a triple with 2 outs in the 9th inning to send the game into extra innings. John, I thought one of my greatest moments in Cardinals history was the time Ozzie Smith, 1985 playoffs against the Dodgers, left-handed hitting home run to beat the Dodgers in the NLCS. This has to be one of the greatest, in my mind, greatest moment in Cardinals history.
The modern era for sure.
Yeah, easily in the modern era. And when we say modern era, we mean like since 2000, so that producer Hannah, who was born in 2001, and Stephanie Bell, who was born a few years before that, so they can take part. That's why we say modern era. Did you see what David Freese did?
I don't get it.
So, they have the Cardinals there's the Baseball Hall of Fame, and then there's the Cardinals Hall of Fame, and fans can vote somebody in, and apparently David Freese, he was voted in he's going to be inducted into the Cardinals Hall of Fame, but he's declining. And the reason why, I think it's kind of mixed results this morning. I think it's cool. One of us thinks it's kind of weird. We'll get into that here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Stephanie Bell is back. Good morning, Steph.
Good morning.
What is it you miss most when you're gone, when you're not able to... when you're not here?
Put me on the spot. I miss this is a fun way to wake up, right? Like,
Amen.
Get your day started, have your coffee, have a fun, discussion instead of racing right into my work.
Here's the news. Here's what's going on. Here's how it's going to...
I like feeling like I'm in the know.
Yeah. There is producer Hannah.
What up?
What was the highlight of your weekend?
Got to see lots of family.
Very nice. Mr. Marsh, what about you?
We had a good evening Friday, all of us, at our Zimmy Internal Awards night.
Are you familiar with the Dundies on The Office? Anybody watch the Dundies on
There's some similarities there.
No, it is a very wonderful event. By the way, afterwards, great meal, and afterwards, we ordered the Barakevka. It's it's good. You should try it once.
Somebody did get most improved, which someone made. No, I'm serious. There were jokes made about
Cousin
it.
Andy.
That was Cousin Andy.
Oh, yeah. Well, Andy also walked away with 3 or 4 awards.
Oh, yeah.
But
yeah,
I had to laugh. I had posted a group shot of all of us all dressed up on the Wake Up Facebook page, and Patricia commented and said, "Wow, what a nice looking group. Wonder if someone has dress shoes on."
Nope.
I did. I wore the good flip-flops.
So I told her, I said, nope, zoom in on the Y and the Zimmy sign we're standing behind, and you see 2 little bare toes.
I wore the good flip-flops, Ed. It was a dress-up event.
Flip-flops with a sports coat is not normal.
I'm going to bedazzle a pair of flip-flops for you.
You'd wear them.
On a bet, I would wear them. Next bet I lose, I'll walk through. I'll walk in front of the Capitol in bedazzled Crocs, even in honor of Stephanie Bell.
I see an honor flight wager coming up here.
By the way, we're getting ready for our Central Missouri Honor Flight Radiothon. That's coming up this Feel Good Friday. This is such a cool thing that we invite you to be a part of it. So I don't know if you're familiar with the Honor Flight, but what we do is we send veterans to Washington, D.C. These can be a very transformative trip, very emotional trip. And they're there for, it's not even 24 hours. And it's typically about $300. And this year, a $300 donation will get you an official Central Missouri Honor Flight Radiothon t-shirt. Thanks to Extreme Body and Paints. Coming up this Friday, A1 Containers is helping us out. And if you want, this is something really cool, man. You're talking about next level participation. Go to our websites, 939theeagle.com, KWOS.com, and you can help us build our wall of honor with pro pumping and hydrojetting. So what we're doing is we're looking for pictures of your veterans, stories, and you upload it. It's like maybe 5 minutes, and then you'll be able to go onto our websites and check that out. So David Freese, of course, greatest moment, I would say, in Cardinals history, at least in the last 50 years, greatest moment ever in Cardinals history, that Game 6 performance, Texas Rangers. Gosh, it was just insane. 2 outs, bottom of the 9th, hits the triple to send the game to extra innings. Cardinals on the verge of losing. And then he homers. So now he gets inducted into the Cardinal Hall of Fame. If you ever go to Busch Stadium, they're on the lower level. It's kind of cool. You can go and see all the Cardinals that have been inducted into the Cardinals Hall of Fame. But he says no thanks.
I have a theory.
I'm listening.
it's kind of a conspiracy theory.
Listen, we need to get some aluminum foil in here and start building some hats. Incidentally, can we put that on the list? I want to build.
Maybe
it's happening. So here's what he's saying. He's like, yeah, I know what I did for the Cardinals, and it's cool because I grew up in the area. I'm a fan. He's a Missouri kid, but he's like, I wasn't that good. I shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame, basically, is what he is saying. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. You talk about self-awareness. Like, hey, man, I had really... Now, he won the MVP for the World Series that year, one for the playoffs. So, yeah, he had a good playoff series, but I like his self-awareness. He's like, I was a middling ball player, and I had, one really good series.
See, I have a different theory in that there's all these, kind of scamming organizations out there for lawyers, and they email you all the time, and they're like, guess what? You're the #1 lawyer for women under this age in mid-Missouri with, who's right-handed. And they're like, buy our $800 plaque to commemorate your honor. And I will say, even with bigger awards, there are popular lawyer magazines and news things, and they're like, you get this award, awesome. And they're like, guess what? We're going to have this big event for you, and we want you to bring all of your friends at $200 a ticket. And we're going to publish this really cool thing, and we need you to put an ad in here too, and that's $1,000. And so, a lot of times these awards end up costing you thousands and thousands of dollars. And so, I don't know what David Freese is doing just now, or how, but for the event, the tickets, the ads, the plaques, maybe he's just like, you know what, I don't know what the Cardinals are. Oh, we got a foil hat.
We got some foil hats, man.
I don't know how they do the Hall of Fame, but we talked to Gary Pinkel, and he was going to the SEC Hall of Fame, and he was taking a whole bunch of people with him, having to fly down there. Who do you think's paying for that, right? It's probably him. And Gary Pinkel is doing okay. I don't know how David Freese is doing, but,
Maybe David Freese just doesn't look good in a red sport coat or something. I don't know.
If you have never, ever watched the show, if you have never... John, is not today the day to watch Wake Up Mid-Missouri?
Well, depending.
Wow. And I'll tell you how
forewarned.
The glare off of Brandon's head is even brighter than normal.
I was going to say it's pretty bad when you put an aluminum foil hat on and the glare has actually gone down.
Is that really an aluminum foil hat? You just smashed a pie plate on your bald head.
I was going to say, what happened to the Chinese leftovers that were in there?
I found a roll of the heavy-duty stuff.
Well, we've been saying for a while we need some honest to goodness aluminum foil hats because of our conspiracy. And I have a theory about people not getting, hey, it's almost gas tax receipt time.
I told you the one day it was at school, and it was silly hat day or something, and most people wore ball caps or whatever. My son told my husband, I want to wear an aluminum foil hat to school. I wasn't there because I was here with y'all, and guess whose kid showed up to school in an aluminum foil hat? Mine did.
Uncle Brandon's nephew, that's who, right?
That's right. Oh, now you've kind of got a bill on it.
I ran into one of our coworkers on my way back into the studio with the giant roll of aluminum foil and 2 pie pans. And he said, what are you doing? I said, we're talking about conspiracy theories. He said, any good ones? I said, I don't know. I stepped out to go find aluminum foil.
I'm sporting fedora style.
I'm surprised. I feel like you could see a person with a duck on a leash in the radio station, and I wouldn't have any questions. I'd be just like, yep, that's radio for you.
We're weird.
I'm getting some really good radio stations on this, incidentally. Watch the show. All right. So I think I have a theory about gas tax receipts, too. I don't know if it's conspiracy aluminum foil.
It's probably true.
Well, here's the thing. So it's that time. It's that time of year where you can, because I get frustrated when people complain about taxes, and here you have an opportunity to get your the additional fuel tax back. And but I think when people aren't doing it, we talk about this, conservatives do this, this, and that. We complain of, and conservatives complain.
What is your time worth, though? That's the issue. I would, if it was worth it, I would get it back. But how much? You spent so much time filling it out. And you
It
got
was
like
about an hour.
$7.22.
I got $15.
Yeah, but the funny part was you thought you were going to get like $50 or $60 back, and you were pretty disappointed with the $15 total.
So I should get 60 this year because last year it was a truncated year and it was only 2.5 cents per gallon. But if you've been saving, think about this. Every single gallon of gasoline that you have purchased since, I think, September the 1st or October the 1st, you can get 5 cents back for every gallon.
So
as I say it out loud, it doesn't sound that good, actually.
No.
It does. I mean, and every little bit helps. And so what Brandon's talking about is the gas tax went in, it's graduated. And so, what is it, 5 years, I think?
Yeah, and then it'll be like 12.5 cents.
Yeah, so this year, if you filled it out last year, it should be. The thing I really want to know, though, is we heard from the Department of Revenue about how people had complained about the system and filling out all the paperwork. And they said they were going to fix the system or make it easier to fill out. Have you tried to fill it out this year? Is it easier?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
So if you get 5 cents back a gallon, say you're getting 20 gallons, you're getting $1.
Buck every time.
Okay. I use an app where you upload your receipt, and I can get way more money back than that.
But it's not about the money. It's the principle of the thing, man.
And you could stack it, right? You could get more. You could get your gas tax money back and your money back on the app.
Yeah, but see, this way, I get money back on the app, and I can still help, fix our roads.
I don't want to fix our roads. I don't want to be a responsible fellow Missourian, man.
Every time I hit a pothole, I'm going to say bad words.
Fiscal year ends the end of this month, so starting July 1st, you'll be able to get on the Missouri Department of Revenue website. Oh, so by July 2025, the state fuel tax, the total fuel tax, will be 29.5 cents per gallon, but it's 12.5 cents per gallon. A couple years from now, you'd be able to.
And last year it was 2.5.
Yeah, 2.5. So last year I got like $15 back on a short year, 2.5 cents.
So you might get 5 times that eventually.
So yeah,
right?
I'm hoping whatever 5 times 15 is. All right, coming up a few minutes from now. I hope you're watching the show this way. You watch it on our YouTube channel.
Down 93, S&P 500 down 16.
We'll look at futures this morning. Coming up in the Morning Bell at 8:25. Morning Bell business news. Little twist only Stephanie Bell can give you. Good morning. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Sunshine today up to 88. You know, we've been blessed with weather without humidity. It's going to get a little humid today. Temps right about 90 for the rest of the week. Loneliness hurts not just men's mental health. Could also hurt your bones, too. Man, this is something for dudes. So we know that women with osteoporosis and stuff, women with their bone structure, is something you have to take care of as you get to later in life. Women in their 40s start to take, and I'm not trying to make an age joke here. I'm not trying.
Are you saying that 40s is later in life?
I'm not.
Past my prime.
No, I swear to God.
Uh-oh.
Hear what I was trying
Brandon's
to say.
trying to get himself Don Lemon.
This morning, Stephanie came in, and it just occurred to me, and I never try to comment on a woman's dress attire or how they look. I've been backhanded too many times. But John, this morning, Stephanie came in, and I was trying to be complimentary. I said, "Oh, you look like a nurse this morning." Because she's got
What does that mean?
And then like 5 seconds goes by, and he goes, "I meant that as a compliment, by the way." Like, how the heck is that a compliment?
By then, John, it was too late.
It was too late.
But yeah, I just thought. But anyhow, like, are you taking like extra vitamins and stuff for women in their?
Yeah, because she's about to turn 50, apparently.
Right.
Apparently.
By the way, that's one of the things we got to do this morning. Some of the things that we got in trouble for while Steph was gone. Here are some of those moments.
No, that was all you.
Coming up 7:10
I will not
morning.
go down for that.
I have been taking more vitamins and supplements since I got pregnant because pregnancy ruins your health and your body. Since I have had children.
You're not pregnant right now.
I am not.
Okay.
But I
oh boy.
Yeah.
This is
there are no announcements on today's show. But no, I feel like
He asked her age. He asked her, "Are you pregnant right now?"
Any
He told
woman
her she looked like a nurse.
Any woman who's ever been through it can. I mean, some people are like those like flowery people, like, "Oh, I love it. It's so great." And I was like, I just want to be done with this.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a running joke in my house because I would go in all the time with weird symptoms. Be like, yeah, sometimes that happens with pregnancy. And like, literally, I could lose a digit. Like, a finger could fall off, and I'd go in and be like, sometimes that just happens with pregnancy. Like, that happened, you know, it was weird. And I'm like, why does no one tell you about all these weird things that are just like part of pregnancy? So yeah, I've been trying to recover.
Because nobody did have kids.
Exactly. So yes, I've spent the last 7 or 8 years trying to supplement my way back to normal health.
So you do take some vitamins and stuff like that.
Correct.
So dudes, apparently social isolation is a potent form of psychosocial stress. So is what they're saying is loneliness may not be bad just for your mental health, but also your bone health. And I would guess, isn't that just if you're
sitting at home playing video games,
you're not getting much exercise, it's not good for your bones, is what I'm guessing. Self-isolation is a potent form of psychosocial stress. And see, I don't agree with that stuff. One of my favorite places to be is at home by myself. I don't mind being, and I don't feel isolated or lonely. And besides, I'm the coolest dude I know.
I'm my own best friend.
I really
and
love
I have
myself.
I have Chat GPT to talk to.
He's a strong, independent woman. He don't need no man.
I don't need no man in my life.
He's got mice to talk to.
I got mice. I got my aluminum foil hat here for whenever we talk conspiracy theories. I'm good. Speaking of ChatGPT, though,
we got caught this morning.
We did run. We ran some stuff that Joe said. Some stuff he said. We ran it through ChatGPT, and I thought ChatGPT gave some interesting answers. Maybe we'll do that coming up at 7:10 this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Oh, and we have an update on that.
I'd be sleeping alone. You have to explain. I better explain that. Some don't know what I'm talking about. My wife's a Philly girl. All right, where are we going?
We're heading this way for him.
All right, we're going to go over and get the briefing.
All right. That dude is still president of the United States of America. Welcome into the show. Coming up, we do have some post-indictment polling numbers. Well, I'll tell you, right now, statistically, as a matter of fact, Jonathan Karl on ABC yesterday, one of the Sunday morning news programs, like he said properly, he said, it's basically, this is a statistical tie, dead heat between Trump and Biden, according to the one poll that they were looking at. We'll be looking at some of that. And we have an update on that Fox News producer, the one who did the Chiron last week that said wannabe dictator has his opponent arrested. We have an update on that coming up here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Welcome into the show. My name is Branden Rathert. Stephanie Bell is back. Highlights from your trip?
I am. There were a lot. Well, I've been on 2 trips because I went to camp first.
That's right, summer camp.
So I slept in like a bunkhouse with a bunch of little girls, and they shone their flashlights and they told ghost stories. And so it brought back a lot of memories. That was fun. And some friends of the camp are Wake Up Mid-Missouri friends and family. So they were really excited to hear the camp shout out, which I didn't know. So
yeah, but let's hear about the Vegas trip.
I did go to Las Vegas.
That's what we're after.
Went to Las Vegas for work, but my big exciting thing was I was actually in town when the Knights won the Stanley Cup, and I was out to dinner one night, and they showed up with the cup and crashed my dinner party and walked the cup through the restaurant, and we had like a We Are the Champions sing-along. It was very sweet.
Hannah, isn't that so, Steph? The
Yes.
NHL champions came in and crashed my dinner.
How dare they?
Yes.
There's Brian Houseworth. We're glad you're back, Steph.
Thank you.
There's Brian Houseworth.
It's good to see you, and welcome back to Stephanie as well.
Yeah, how's traffic this morning, especially Rocheport, the Rocheport Bridge?
Today, it's fine. Yesterday, even with the heavy rain, not too bad. Saturday was a mess. There were backups, I believe, 4 miles. I had it in the story here. 4 miles in one direction, 6 miles in the other direction. And, Mitchell Kaminsky timed it out. He said it added an extra 15 minutes, which surprised me. That's faster than I thought. But I know people were getting frustrated, and they were driving over cones.
Is this true? Like, people were out on the Rocheport Bridge over the weekend redirecting traffic? Am I exaggerating this story, Houseworth?
You are close. They weren't on the bridge doing that, but they were in the detour area. They were doing that to get into Rocheport, trying to go through road, and they did go through roadblocks. Yes, that Mitchell report, and he and Hannah Falcon reported that it happened during his live shot Saturday at 10 o'clock. Two vehicles, and Hannah said the people were frustrated.
So wait, so ABC 17 is there. They're getting some footage.
Yes.
People happen to be pulling over, redirecting traffic, and there happen to be TV cameras going while this is happening.
Yes, and to clarify that, he did his intro with Hannah Falcon. This is Mitchell Kaminsky, former radio guy, did a great job. Behind him, you see a lot of activity. Then he goes to his package about all the traffic, and then comes back and finishes. They call that the live shot, the tag, if you will. It was right at the end of that package, so you didn't see them going, but he was incredulous, and rightfully so, that could cause all sorts of problems. And he said that happened so it happened within seconds of him coming back on the air.
I don't think it's as uncommon as you think. I am a rule follower, and have you ever pulled up to kind of like a barricade and they're doing some sort of event or something else, and it's like road closed, and you're like, if this barricade was just a couple inches to the right, I could squeeze right through there. I have definitely moved. I'm like, that is my parking lot. I can see that parking lot. I know where I'm going. Just gonna move this out of the way for a minute. I think a lot of people in Mid-Mo have taken traffic matters and parking matters into their own hands.
I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, don't do it. We're not encouraging you to do that. That could be, I'm guessing, incredibly dangerous. But if I'm being honest, I love that people over screw this. I want to redirect the traffic the way I want to. I got to get to Kansas City.
They were in a rush to get into Rocheport. And probably most of the businesses at that time would have been shut down anyway. But no, I definitely would not recommend that. I mean, those roads are shut down for a reason. And not only that, it's dangerous. I mean, we saw it on Vandiver yesterday. If people would have driven, of course, it was daylight. That was the difference. But that one car that water went up right to that lady's, she obviously drove through, came down that hill, and it came up. I don't think the motorist did anything wrong, but she didn't drive through a barricade at all. That just came up on her all of a sudden. And it could have been a disaster.
Record-setting amount of rainfall yesterday.
Yes, 1.35. That breaks a record from 1973.
We needed it.
Yeah.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, Department of Natural Resources is saying, hey, we're relying on residents to report drought conditions. Governor Parsons saying if you got some buckets, you can go to Missouri State Lakes. You get out some water for the farmers. They're using tankers, but trying to get some water and trying to get some hay and things like that. And so these people redirecting the traffic on the Rocheport Bridge this weekend with the cones and stuff.
Yes.
Don't let the troopers see you pulling that.
Yeah.
They were down. I don't think they were they were back. I think just where he was, the authorities were down the way and then up the way. I don't think they would have seen it unless they know about it now, obviously from the live shot. Yeah. But the point is that I don't think that they were close enough to catch them. But yes, it did happen. Again, not on the bridge, but near it as they were detouring. His words here: 2 vehicles drive over cones, then got out of their cars, moved other cones in order to get through a roadblock into Rocheport. So it was a roadblock set up by MoDOT, and it was because of all the demolition, and then it hadn't been rain at that point. That came later.
It was probably some of those folks who sat there for like 7 hours on Cowgate Day or whatever, right? I guess cows weren't gated, but had I have sat on that bridge for 7 hours, and I think, you know what, I gotta get moving. And you
I would
think
have
about,
jumped off and swam over to the other side. I'm getting to Kansas City one way or the other, baby.
I think about people who have health issues, people who have court appearances,
electric cars.
Yeah, I mean there were people who, I don't think 8 hours, but every bit of 4 and 5 hours that day.
It took Cynthia Shreen, one of our people here at the station, it took her almost 3 hours to get from Boonville to Columbia, which normally you can do in 25 minutes, and she was very fortunate. And then after Cynthia got through, that's when we started seeing all the crashes at the detour as well. And people were driving too fast. That was just a disaster. And thankfully, no one was seriously injured.
And then what happened on the Grand Glazed Bridge? This will get you arrested every single time, John.
We had a Russellville man now facing DWI charges who is alleged to have run head-on into an Osage Beach police officer near the Grand Glazed Bridge.
You're not going to get away with that one when you run into a police cruiser. There's producer Hannah.
Hello.
874-9390. 874-9390. Used ChatGPT, my new best friend now, to fact check some, because I'm wondering about this. Something Joe Biden said last week.
Well, we're going to win and we're going to help. We have plans to build a railroad from the Pacific all the way across the Indian Ocean.
So Joe says we have plans. We're going to build
Dang it, Joe.
a bridge from California. We're going to go across the Pacific Ocean in that bridge when we get to India. So I got onto ChatGPT and said, how is Joe Biden going to build a railroad from the Pacific all the way across to the Indian Ocean? ChatGPT says, I'm sorry, but there is no credible information or official statements indicating that Joe Biden is going to build a railroad. But didn't he just say that, John? Isn't that a credible statement?
Sounded like.
If I have the president...
Well, we're going to win and we're going to help. We have plans to build a railroad from the Pacific all the way across the Indian Ocean.
But ChatGPT says we don't have anything that says he's doing that.
Yeah. Snopes really wants to say it's false, and all they can say is the video accurately represented what Biden said. So fact check. That's what he actually said.
So in those fact checkers, remember last week we were trying to translate some of those Bidenisms, and there was one where it sounds like that one. Hannah says it sounds like Biden is saying
my butt's been waxed.
I thought my butt's been wiped. So as we were doing this, as we were trying to translate these Bidenisms, there were news organizations that fact-checked that statement. Going, no, he didn't say that. He was trying to say something else. News organizations were fact-checking. Did the President of the United States randomly shout out, my butt's been wiped or waxed? They fact-checked this, man. That's how, and see, doesn't that show you how hard they are trying trying to prop this guy up, how it's these progressives protecting progressives. We're going to fact check that statement. It just shows how they do whatever they can to run cover.
I'll go back. Sometimes you just should keep your mouth shut. And Joe Biden, if he just said less, he'd be way better off.
It's a true story. Years ago, I was dating somebody and was going to meet the... This one time, I was dating somebody. But going to meet the family at Thanksgiving, and it's stressful stuff, meeting the family, and it's Thanksgiving. I hate that stuff. Anyhow, my dad says, Brandon, just go and just keep your mouth shut. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go and keep my mouth shut.
Yeah.
And I did. I mean, I said very few words that night. And afterwards, they all, how all the girls in the family, they talk. And so they all called this gal and said, oh, he was so polite. And so on. I didn't say anything. I sat there and ate mashed potatoes and turkey.
Because people love to talk about themselves, and they love to feel like you're listening to them. So yes, if I'm in a new crowd, I will notoriously be really quiet. And I've had the same reaction. People tell other people, oh my gosh, she was so great. I'm like, ask them one thing about me. Ask them if they ask me one question, if they know anything other than maybe my first name. And I'm thinking they would say no, they didn't, but apparently I'm like the greatest thing. I'm like, how does that work? But if you can make other people feel important and listen to what they're saying, they will think you're awesome.
And I think that translates, this would be my one piece of marriage advice, it translates into the realm of marriage, and that's the best thing you can do whenever you're just, whatever she says or whatever he says, just pretend like you're really interested in what they're saying. And every few seconds you go,
I liked your dad's idea best.
What was my dad's idea?
Keep your mouth shut.
Okay, come on, just a few minutes from now. We're going to be doing What's Hot with Hannah.
Well, Brandon, I have a story that's going to make you say, ouch.
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 7:25-ish.
Especially as a dude, I think.
Uh-oh, I know what's coming. Which means it's
7:25.
time for What's Hot with Hannah.
I have a story that's just going to make you maybe cross your legs a little bit and go, ouch.
You talking to me or Steph?
All of the above.
John, your legs crossed. You ready for this, bud?
I guess.
Everyone hold on to your kidneys, all right? Anybody ever had a kidney stone? Show of hands.
Nope.
No, thank goodness.
I hear they're the worst.
I was going to say, nobody in this room? That surprises me.
If you have, though, please call in 874-9390 and tell us how excruciatingly painful it was. I want to hear that, seriously.
Well, Brandon doesn't drink a lot of, like, Coke, but isn't Diet Coke, like, super bad?
Soda's supposedly not good for you, correct?
Yeah,
if
to
you're
give you
prone to kidney stones.
Yeah.
So is that like a legitimate, is that a literal, like it's a crystallized stone that then has to pass through your urethra? Is that what a kidney stone is?
Yeah.
And it's
a
like
lot of times they have jagged edges.
Oh!
So it hurts on the way out. I had an old coworker here who used to get them all the time. And she's like, when they're just chilling and not moving, you don't even notice they're there. But the second they start to move, it's like your insides are being ripped out. You doing all right? You look a little pale. You look a little pale.
Put the foil hat back on it.
Well, sometimes if the kidney stone is big enough that it's not going to pass on its own, there's a procedure that they'll do where they kind of shoot it with a laser and break it up into smaller pieces so that it can pass easier.
So then you have a whole bunch of them.
Right.
Ugh.
Yeah.
I don't know. I keep thinking of Alanis Morissette's Jagged Little Pill.
Oh, God. And a handful of gravel to go with it.
Oh.
Well, now there's a new world record for the world's largest kidney stone.
Nope.
Any guesses as to how big this thing is? Or do you even want to guess?
Has anyone eaten breakfast recently? I feel like someone's going to get sick.
The size of the size and consistency of a grape nut from a grape nut box of cereal.
No. So luckily for this patient, it was removed surgically. It was 5.26 inches long, and it weighed 1.76 pounds.
Oh, Lord.
There's a picture of it posted on the Wake Up Facebook page.
We want people to come to our Facebook page,
Yeah.
Hannah.
So the surgeon is holding it, and it looks like the size of a softball, essentially, maybe a little bigger. But how long had that been sitting in this dude's kidney? And why did it take him so long to get it taken care of?
Because he's a dude.
And yeah, fair enough.
Honestly.
But anybody that's ever had a small kidney stone, can you imagine even attempting to pass this big old whopper?
Ugh.
Sandy says I had one. The one word to describe it? Ouch.
Yeah, that's pretty much the consensus that I've gathered. If I never have one, I will be perfectly happy.
874-9390, 874-9390, and that's what's hot with Hannah Spoonbill.
Yeah.
Oh.
Ouch.
Go ahead.
Spoonbill says, it feels like you're passing razor blades.
Oh, no.
No part of that. It sounds like something I would like to participate in.
Do you get like an epidural or something? You get like
That's one of the things I'd say, Doc. I know I've been sober for a few years now, but go ahead and load me up before you start this procedure. I'll take all the good stuff, man.
Well, and I think you have to pee into like this mesh contraption so you can actually see if you passed it or not.
Oh, while we're speaking of uncomfortable medical procedures, you ever had a catheter? Woo!
Yes.
That's pretty painful.
That makes me cringe too.
Yeah. I'll take that for the kidney stone. I've had the catheter. Hope none of this is making you uncomfortable. It's just health stuff that affects all of us.
New world record.
Hopefully it doesn't affect you, actually.
Amen, Sister Steph. Glad you are back. Coming up a little bit later this morning, a little bit after 8 o'clock, Mike Murphy, Como Buz. Cities like Columbia and Jefferson City ready for a strong mayor form of government. This is what we're covering at 8:10. Good morning.
I think just local news.
of these officers to the scene, the EMS workers that applied first aid in the hospitals that had to treat these individuals for a horrific event that shouldn't be happening.
St. Louis Police Chief Robert Tracy following the shooting of 10 people last night in St. Louis, late night party, one of them dead. They've busted a 17-year-old kid, an underage 17-year-old kid. He's been arrested, and I think the person shot and killed, John, I think they were under the age of 18. Do you know?
17-year-old was dead and 9 other teenagers wounded.
Jeez. And there's things like this that matter. We were talking last week, Dot Foods. They do one of the probably the biggest food services type of convention in all of America. And they've been doing it in St. Louis for a lot of years. They moved it from St. Louis this year. They're moving it. Or actually, so it was in St. Louis last week, but they said, yeah, next year we're moving. Why? Crime. So these things matter when we talk about crime and the ineptitude of Democrat lawmakers want to defund the police and rainbows and unicorns. That stuff matters because look what happens. Dot Foods, crime, because they're too soft on crime. Dot Foods, and I don't know how many millions of dollars their week-long food services convention. I don't know how much money they generate for an area. They're pulling their money out of the city of St. Louis because of progressive policies, because of Democrats, whether you're talking local Democrats like we have here or all across the state, and they're taking their money out of state. That's why these things matter, and it hurts us, these progressive policies. Welcome into the show. Meanwhile, Jefferson City, they're keeping high school stuff for a few years, John?
Yeah, it sounds like they're going to keep the state high school track meet in Jefferson City until 2030. Man, that brings a bunch of bucks in. Yeah. Try to go to a restaurant the night of night of the big track meet.
Well,
that's for sure. You know, I catch a lot of grief for traveling, but usually I'm traveling for a work conference, and guess where they never are? Kansas City or St. Louis.
That's right. They're not in Kansas City or St. Louis because crime. Listen, you go and if you talk to, because every time St. Louis, I shouldn't say every time, but a lot of times St. Louis makes national news. Why do they get onto the Fox or CNN or MSNBC? It's not good.
No.
It's crime or it's Gardner. It's not good. And so people across the country, you say, oh, I'm from Missouri. They go, oh, St. Louis, Missouri? You get that, and, oh, yeah, I've heard about y'all on Fox.
Or they're like, where is that?
Yeah.
Which states does it touch?
Stephanie Bell is back. We should do some of the things that she missed while she was gone. We want to do that at 7:50 maybe.
You sure about that?
Well, I
don't think it's going to end well for you.
I've seen some of it.
Well, and I really want you to hear what Congressman Jason Smith said when we asked about infighting in the House amongst Republicans. John, you remember the answer Jason Smith gave?
Yeah, Jason Smith kind of had a kind of a softball answer there.
Yeah. So I thought you might enjoy hearing that. Welcome into the show. So Stephanie Bell, there's producer Hannah.
Hello.
And that's John Marsh, of course.
Yes, sir.
My name is Branden Rathert, 874-9390, 874-9390. Glad you are here. One of the big things that we've been following towards the latter part of the week was this questioning of the assistant director of the FBI, Mr. Abadi. And he was questioned by Josh Hawley, one of our U.S. senators. He was questioned by several people about, hey, this document and the tapes, and why haven't you guys been forthcoming? And all of these Republicans, especially in the House and in the Senate, have been saying, well, there's 17 recordings. There is somebody who is telling us they have 17 recordings of conversations with then Vice President Joe Biden. There's 15 with Hunter Biden, 2 with him, and this might be the smoking gun, if you will. And everybody, okay, where is this? Where is this? Now, all of a sudden, people like Ron Johnson, Republican senator out of Wisconsin, all of a sudden seem to be backtracking on the American people.
Tessla's never said they exist. He just said that there's an FBI report on a confidential human source, and that confidential human source says that the person he was talking to said that he taped.
So all of a sudden, they're back. It feels like they're starting to backtrack a little bit. Jim Jordan. Same nature in this interview.
We don't know for sure if these tapes exist. If they do, and they say what?
Well, then what have you been going around telling everyone? We have these tapes, because here's what happens. Then Republicans and conservatives, they hear that and probably hear some of that stuff on this very show, and then they go into work. Did you hear? They might be clamping down. The walls are closing in on Joe Biden. But it's frustrating because you can't get any help from the news outlets, from nobody, on any of this stuff.
And it's funny because we tend to leak everything else, right? Everything else important gets leaked out, but somehow we're not getting this information leaked. Where's that guy in the Discord chat room posting secret stuff when you need him?
Some dude playing video games, getting boxes of Domino's pizza delivered to his mom's basement, is able to cut loose with some of this stuff. But we can't get information like this leaked. My goodness. By the way, we have news on the guy. Here's one of those things you missed while you were gone, Steph. This dude. So this was going into Hannity the other night. Did you get to see it, John? The actual Chiron?
Oh, yeah. Most definitely.
This was so good because I just happened to be watching it live as they're going into Sean Hannity, who's here today at 2 o'clock. And the Chiron. So you had Trump on one side of the screen, and then you had Biden on the other. And we're hearing the audio of Trump. And then the Chiron says, "Wannabe," and I'll even hold it up if you're watching on the show. Wannabe dictator speaks at the White House after having his political rival arrested. And it is hilarious.
So good.
And the dude is now fired. He's without a job.
Aww. I wouldn't say though, because he posted something on his Instagram or something, and he was kind of like, yep, he had like a box of all of his stuff and was like, I'm out, deuces. Like he was, and if you read his backstory, apparently he was the editor or the managing editor of Tucker Carlson Tonight. And so he's probably still pretty angry that Tucker's out, and he was probably like, hey, Tucker, I'm going to give you one salute before I go and, mess with these Fox people.
He's got that look on his face, this producer who is now without a job, the one who put the Chiron up, that says, "Wannabe dictator speaks at the White House after having his political rival arrested." This kid, he's got this look on his face like, yeah, I know I got fired, but my future's looking pretty bright because I'm the guy who did this. That's the look he's got on his face.
And it sounds like he was ready to go. His post says, "It's been a wild 10 years, and it was the best place I've ever worked because of the great people I met, not because of, the company or culture or anything else." And he said, "I asked them to let me go, and they finally did. To all my friends, I'll miss you forever." So he was, ready to go and just waiting for his moment. And it was a pretty good moment.
Have you ever heard, we always hear the story, John, and when I leave that place, I'm going to give them, the double middle finger salute, and I'm going to tell them everything I think, and I'm going to run and I'm going to slam the door. But have you ever really known anybody who's gone out of work in a blaze of glory? Have you ever seen it in real life? I've never seen it.
I had a coworker who did once in this very business. And went in and erased all the commercials that he'd done before he was leaving the radio station.
Did he have trouble finding a job afterwards?
Nah, it was radio.
See, I think this guy is, Tucker's saying he's coming back. This guy has worked with Tucker apparently for a long time. So I think Tucker's like, you get a $10,000 signing bonus if you give them the middle finger before you leave. I mean, I think this guy's just walking straight over to wherever Tucker is. So I think if you have a job secured, you probably are a little bit more bold on your way out the door.
What a way to go out. Remember, and I was trying to think the other times that Chirons have gotten people in trouble, and I remember the Asiana Airlines flight that crashed into San Francisco, John?
Yes, we do.
So it was, and we have the audio, but there was a crash. And I don't, by the way, have you ever, as much as you fly, Steph, have you ever landed at San Francisco International Airport? Like, those runways jut out into the ocean.
Oh, you come right in over the bay.
I have not.
It's a frightening place to land an airplane or be on an airplane that a pilot is landing. But they crashed landing in San Francisco, and there's a TV station, I think it was KTVU or something in San Francisco, and they're covering the story. I think it was right about 10 years ago. I think it was in the summer of 2013. So the San Francisco TV station, they get the names, and they're going nonstop with this story. And now they have the names of some of the deceased.
We have new information now also on the plane crash. KTVU has just learned the names of the 4 pilots who were on board the flight.
Now she's reading the Chiron that everybody else is seeing, that's flashing up on the TV.
Our captain, Sum Ting Wong, Wee Tu Lo, Ho Lee Fook, and Bang Ding Ao. The NTSB has...
What a classic.
And poor gal.
Did someone get fired over that?
So, and the apology was almost the best part of all this. Poor girl. So, again, live TV, all right? And she's just reading this is what's popped up. She hasn't proofread it, nothing. And when you're on the TV like that and you're in that situation and you're reading the script, here's what's given to you. You just kind of go with it. But I'm wondering, I almost got the sense when this happened, like as soon as she read those names, like maybe she realized she had been duped.
Confirmed these are the names of the pilots on board Flight 214 when it crashed. We are working to determine exactly what roles each of them played during the landing on Saturday.
Now, maybe she doesn't know yet. She's been duped. She does know. But then, as I recall, the apology about that I thought was pretty interesting, too, because it was like it was a cavalcade of errors, basically. They had a summer intern working the story, and when they called the Federal Transportation Administration or whatever, is what they said is they confirmed those names, but what we didn't confirm was the person who gave us those names. So somebody at the FTA was screwing with them. I mean, it was just a whole list of comical errors. We are getting ready for our big event. This is coming up on a Feel Good Friday. The Eagles and KWS Central Missouri Honor Flight Radiothon with A1 containers coming up this Feel Good Friday. So what this is, we send veterans to Washington, D.C. for the day. It is a remarkable trip. A lot of these veterans come back, and this is a quick trip. It's not like overnight, all-you-can-eat buffet and great hotel stays. This is like an in-and-out trip to D.C., and it's been very beneficial to veterans. Matter of fact, we find many have been able to find closure and finally put to rest many of the burdens that they've carried over the years. And you can help facilitate that when you join us for our Radiothon with A1 containers, Extreme Body and Paint, and also doing the Wall of Honor. Whole bunch of folks helping us. Service Master Clean of Columbia, Jiffy Lube, Steve's Pest Control, Diamond Pet Foods. Coming up just a few minutes from now, some of the things that Stephanie Bell missed while she was gone.
Down 109 points, the Nasdaq down 93, S&P 500 down 16.
How are the futures looking? We'll do that for you in the Morning Bell at 8:25. Morning Bell, business news, little twist only. Stephanie Bell can give you.
Also, a possible solution for all those Rocheport Bridge problems by none other than New York City. Might have a lesson for us.
I don't know if you heard over the weekend, and I don't think we're exaggerating. We get this right. Brian Hausworth has been reporting that apparently people over the weekend, while they were kind of shifting traffic on the new Rocheport Bridge, that people were kind of shifting it the way they wanted to via the cones and stuff. Welcome to the show. Wake Up Mid-Missouri as we get ready for our Central Missouri Honor Flight Radiothon coming up this Feel Good Friday all day long with A1 Containers and some of our other friends, including State Farm agent Phyllis Nichols. So some things that Stephanie, we wanted to get this. I just thought this was really interesting, and John, I think, had the best explanation for it. We asked Congressman Jason Smith. He was talking about a tax break for families, $4,000 potential tax break. And then we asked him about Republicans fighting in the House.
Republican fighting in the House. You guys straighten up your business there?
You know what? I wouldn't call it fighting. We are just making each other stronger. When we have
come on, Jason,
or we have different ideas, it definitely makes us stronger.
All right.
Democrats like to walk in the same line. We like to be independent.
Stephanie, your take?
That was a really political answer.
I think, did he have a sense of humor about it, or did he know he'd been busted? That was a pretty weak sauce answer.
Both. Yes and yes.
That was a ways and means kind of answer.
And then also this.
I seriously want to get your opinion on this, and the girls here on the show call me a fuddy-duddy. Stephanie has
maybe because you refer to us as girls.
Stephanie, I'm sorry, chicks on the show here. Like Stephanie Bell, she's got a birthday coming up, and it's the big 50 for the 40. She got a big birthday, but like she has this, like she has.
You're in trouble.
She has a 3-inch binder. She is telling for this big whole.
You are in trouble. A, because you got the number wrong. B, because you said the actual number.
I tried to tell him that he was in trouble for both of those reasons, and he didn't believe me.
I didn't get so the 50, that was purely accidental. But then I said the actual age, and that's what's got you bent out of shape because I said the age. I'm sorry.
Do you make it a habit of telling women's age on the? You're not supposed to ask me what my age is, yet you're going to blast it on the radio.
Well, that was it. I'm not supposed to ask. I didn't ask. I just
you weren't here, so he couldn't ask.
Okay.
So I just told. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
I don't care that people. I have an almost 12-year-old kid, so. Once you have that, like, I feel like when your kids are like 5, 3, and 1, you can be like, I'm a young mom. And when you're like, I have a 12-year-old, people are like, how old are you?
Somebody the other day came up to me and they're like, Stephanie Bell does not look 50. I'm like, because she's not. Because she's not.
It is
You should really get on this skincare plan, friends. For 50 years old. I can give you some names.
But. So this, the other day I was thinking, gosh, because I'm hearing about campaigns. We get how campaigns and presidential races go, but I keep thinking, this is only 2023. And I know we say it every time we start to get up against a presidential election. It seems like the campaign season is longer and longer and longer. And I'm saying the other day, man, please be over, but it's not. It's only June of 2023. The election is still almost a year and a half away. And here's why I want it to hurry up and be over with, because right now, as you're heading into work, if you didn't score the day off for Juneteenth, if you're heading into work right now in the camp for Donald Trump and in the camp for Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, also running for president, apparently, according to reports in Rolling Stone magazine, both men and their camps are trying to figure out ways to insult each other's manhood in the presidential race to one-up each other. Come on, man.
Are we surprised?
No. I'm not. And I think that's what bums me out too, is that I'm not surprised. Like, come on, behave like gentlemen. Come on, man. Nobody cares about any of this stuff. Please hurry. Coming up just a few minutes from now, Mike Murphy's going to be joining us, talking about an interesting concept.
You know, in the Senate race, we did have that. Who had the biggest blowtorch or the bat or the whatever? I'm excited to see what the props are going to be for 2024.
Bigger.
Stephanie Bell, news director Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, and Hannah, the producer.
This is why we listen to you.
Get ready, pal. And now, here's your host, Branden Rathert.
We don't know for sure if these tapes exist. If they do, and they say what Senator Grassley has said that he thinks they're gonna say, then I think that's a different animal. But I do think that impeachment is something we have to look at.
Congressman Jim Jordan, talking about impeachment potentially for Biden. But the bigger thing really in that story is him saying, well, we don't know if these tapes exist. A lot of talk about the 17 tapes. Somebody told the FBI that this executive from Burisma has 17 tapes. 15 of them are conversations with Hunter Biden. 2 of them with the guy who is now sitting behind the desk in the Oval Office, Joe Biden. And he was asked, well, why did you record these tapes? He said, for insurance purposes. So right away, if you're recording stuff for insurance purposes, that means y'all are up to no good. That's front and center.
Mm-hmm.
But now Jim Jordan and other folks, Ron Johnson, Republican senator from Wisconsin, they've come out all of a sudden and real quick, man, they're pedaling real quick. But now we're not saying we for sure have tapes. Well, then quit telling everybody.
I heard you didn't cover this. I heard that while I was out of town, you talked to my friend Michael Bekesha about the sock drawer tapes.
Michael Bekesha, what a cool story this dude was. He was the one that lost. He was part of the team that lost the Clinton sock drawer case. And he came on and told us why he lost that case, how that pertains to what's happening with Trump. And I thought it was great. And it was really cool because when he's done, he says, maybe next time you guys have me on, we can talk about a case that I actually won.
He's won some big ones and told us about them.
It was pretty cool. Welcome to the show. Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Stephanie Bell is back. There's Houseworth, John Marsh, producer Hannah. I want to bring in Mike Murphy, Como Buz. Como Buz, 1Z, comobuzz.com. I want to talk about the idea of a strong form of mayor for Jefferson City, potentially, in Columbia. Are we at that point yet? But first, something we do have tape of for sure. I want to bring this up. This has to do with the melee that went down at the Arc. The Arc is basically it's a government-funded kind of a community activity center. A lot of kids, exercises, pickleball, swimming pool, all that. Stuff hits the fan last Sunday. But Mike Murphy, who's joining us now, somebody apparently told city leadership this was going to happen. What's the story there?
So back in March, at the end of a council meeting, people line up and they address the council with their concerns. A lady named Demetria Ayers appeared before them and told them that there's a situation waiting to happen at the Arc. She called it gang-like activity. She said her grandchildren are being harassed and bullied, and she'd filed a police report. She said she told council, and she's in front of council, of course, because she's been through City Hall and the police department, and she's feeling like nothing is being done. And she told council that the employees out there, one of which is her sister, are afraid to do anything, and if they don't take some action, she used the word there's going to be an explosion at the Arc one of these days. So that all happened back in March. So, she pretty much foretold what happened out there then last Sunday.
And that was from a meeting, a city council meeting dated March the 20th, she said. And the word she used was there is going to be an explosion. And apparently she was right.
Well, and Mike's reporting on this is really, really well done about this testimony. Mike, to be very clear, we don't know if the incident involving Lakeisha Thomas involved gangs. There's a lot of it redacted in the court document, but so we're unclear on that. But I want to go back to what Ms. Ayers said at the meeting, not only warning about, in her words, gang-like activity, but she said that one of the she had filed a police report. You're right. She said that the staff didn't feel safe and that she went in to speak to staff about who made threats to her grandkids. And one of the juveniles, this is what she told the council, threatened to shoot her in the face. That's disturbing, Mike.
Yeah. Well, that's why people are pretty much there's a lot of real concern how this. Yeah, so the city's warned. The city did take action. They hired they're down 25 police officers. Mm-hmm. They're understaffed everywhere, so they hired a private security firm to be out there during the week. And then, I hate to be, but in typical city fashion, they're saving money or something. They're not out there on the weekends. Then as the seasons change, they're not out there during the week now because people have moved outside to the pools and stuff, but they're supposed to be patrolling on the weekends. And now this particular weekend in question during this melee, there was no security there at all. There's not a very good explanation from the city. It has to do with, well, Citadel had the day off, and we were supposed to be doing it, basically. So nobody was there. So this melee just went on and on and on with nobody, and waiting for police to arrive with nobody there to break it up. And that's how that, that lady who was charged, Lakeisha Thomas, she went in there. Her son, I believe, was involved in it, and her daughter was there also. But she went in and basically was attempting to break it up. Now, not a pretty picture. She goes back and gets her gun. It's hard to make, too many good excuses for the activity that's going on here. But the bottom line is she was trying to break the melee up.
Mm-hmm. Because there was not sufficient security on hand, despite the fact apparently city leadership in a very public setting, in a city council meeting, city leadership had been told by a resident, listen, this is happening. Here's what's going to go on. Less than 3 months later, this woman was incredibly accurate. Our guest, Mike Murphy, ComoBuzz.com. I'm wondering, as we look at for example, two of our cities here in mid-Missouri, Columbia and Jefferson City, and I just kind of got to wondering, is it time where we move into a strong mayor type of government where you actually basically have a mayor that has power? Because right now in Columbia and Jeff City, I don't want to diminish it, but it's basically ceremonial / council member role. Am I correct?
Jeff City has a little authority. They're different. In Jeff City, so most of the city governments in Missouri, the vast majority of them are a mayor and a city council or a board of aldermen. Then as they grew up, and in those, the mayor is the chief executive and has administrative responsibilities. As they grew up, they started adding a city administrator. Jeff City is a classic mayor, city administrator, council, where the mayor does have some executive authority. He has administrative responsibilities, and the city administrator is kind of like a high profile or a chief administrative assistant that works with the mayor and actually does the heavy lifting of administering and managing professionally the city business and municipal employees. But Jeff City still has that form of government. Now, Columbia is totally different. Columbia is one of only 35 municipalities in Missouri who's moved to a council manager form of government where the manager has very little power at all. She presides over meetings and ribbon cuttings and proclamations, but she has no greater authority than any member of the council. She's one vote out of 7. And in fact, the city manager has extraordinary authority for a non-elected official. He's responsible entirely for the administration of city government. This comes up, and I think people widely don't understand this. So, for example, hiring a police chief, that's totally his job, not council. In Columbia, the city manager, so you hear all these high-profile, failures of Columbia city government, and you go on social media, you hear as the criticism erupts, they're always, I call the mayor didn't call back, the city's going to the dogs, we got to get a better mayor, the worst mayor we've ever had, all that. And I'm not here to dispute it. I'm just here to say that I think there's a widespread misconception of the mayor's role in Columbia's government.
Yeah.
But would you prefer, knowing what you know about Columbia, I mean, Branden and Mike, I'm interested. Would you prefer that it be reversed, that the council have more power?
So that's what I'm getting at here, right? Is there a benefit if, let's say, that you're a conservative in Columbia, incredibly progressive city? Is there any benefit to changing it to a strong form of mayor? And because I think the other thing, because right now it is largely ceremonial. If you're talking about the mayor in Columbia, do we get people that like to go out and cut ribbons and do photographs and things like that? Would it get a different ilk of potential candidates if there were some actual work to the role? The argument, and I'm leaning to no, and I'm thinking the discussion is taking place, and it is taking place. It's because when you do have a strong manager form of government and you don't have a strong manager in place, things start falling apart, and that's what's going on in Columbia. But I think that in principle, when you have a massive, people don't understand that
the Columbia City government, it's a $500 million conglomerate that not only includes the operation of a city, but the operation of a utility company, an electric utility. It's huge. And a decision was made long ago in a city charter that its professional management is required to run a city like this. So it's set up to be run by professional management. Here's how I think of it, that I think people don't, what the misconception. Think of the Walt Disney Company, okay? Bob Iger, they brought him back to run it, right? He runs Disney. He hires all the sub-managers. He's responsible for every single thing that goes on with the Walt Disney Company because he's a talented, highly paid manager. That's the and you don't even know anybody who's on their board. Now, they have a very accomplished board of directors who hires Bob Iger, it holds him accountable, and, they just ran off the other guy when, that's why Iger's back. But the point being, you need this type of competent professional leadership to run an organization of this size and magnitude. And I think that's what's supposed to be going on in Columbia. Obviously, we're struggling in Columbia with a lot of high-profile failures, but the failures are, if you just think about it, from garbage bags to busing up homeless camps to the buses don't run to curbside recycling being disbanded, no security at the Arc. This weekend they're boiling water out in Thornbrook because the water tower they were supposed to build since 2016 still isn't built. These are all failures of city administration. City council has done its job. Policies are set, ordinances are in place, financing is arranged, but city administration is falling down. I don't know if going to a strong manager, a stronger mayor is the answer there. I think the answer is, I understand the discussion and happy to have it. I think it's
definitely worth talking about. Well, and I'll go to this when you talk about, and it's not one person, in my opinion, in city leadership when we talk about the mid-Missouri city of Columbia, but it's a mindset of people that have been elected in that city over the years, because I look at it like this, Mike. It took the city of Columbia how many years to take man's first invention, the wheel, and put it onto a trash can and go, this is a much better way. The wheel, it was the first thing that man ever invented. City of Columbia, and that mindset has never been able to get their head around that. Mike Murphy, do yourself a favor. Go check out Como Buz onesie and that comobuzz.com. Mike, we appreciate you, man.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, Mike Murphy. Coming up, we're going to be doing your Morning Bell business news. Little twist only Stephanie Bell can give you.
Should we vote on which intersection is more plagued, the Tri-Level, the Rocheport Bridge, or the 6370?
Good morning. It's 8:25. Time for the Morning Bell business news with a little twist only Stephanie Bell can give you.
Futures are in the red this morning, although the stock market in the last several weeks has been doing pretty well. So not surprised to see it a little bit down this morning. We have been talking about traffic congestion, and it is in mid-Mo has not been great. Got a lot of folks traveling to the lake. We got a lot of construction.
Here's how bad it was over the weekend. Apparently, according to reporting from various sources here in mid-Missouri on the Rocheport Bridge, people were moving the cones around. Citizens, regular folks like you and me getting out of their cars over the weekend and moving cones around to redirect the traffic on the bridge or so they could get around it. That's how bad it was.
And honestly, if I could have done it a couple weeks ago in New York, I might have gotten out of the car and moved a cone or two. And I was in an Uber, and I actually got a message. I've never gotten this before, and it said, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "I think so. Am I okay?" You know, I'm like, "Oh my goodness, what?" And they're like, "You haven't moved in 22 minutes. Like, do you need us to call 911? Like, have you been kidnapped or something?" And I'm like, we're just stuck in traffic. And we were going into a tunnel. There was an accident, but the congestion was just so bad. And apparently there is a new plan to curb congestion in New York City. It is basically a toll, but they're calling it congestion pricing. And I kind of thought we already had congestion, at least with Uber and Lyft. There is like peak time pricing, and it costs you more when there's a lot of traffic.
Okay.
And so this would apply not to just Ubers, and I wonder if it would apply to Ubers and Lyfts, but basically, if you're taking public transit, no impact to you, but if you're going to drive a passenger car into Manhattan, into the city, they're going to charge you. Now, it might sound familiar because other cities like Singapore and London have done, I remember London specifically having done this, and it really helped. They are saying that it could curb traffic as much as 20%. And it was a nightmare. I sat in an Uber for like an hour, and people said, you got lucky, right? And so I can't imagine the impact on businesses in the city. You're thinking, well, I don't want to charge more people. I don't want people to have to pay to come in to visit my business. But I also, if people have to sit in that traffic, maybe they just choose to stay home anyway. And so New York is still feeling the effects, obviously, of the pandemic. It would raise a ton of money for the New York traffic, whatever entity. And they're saying, they could use that money to do something else. Guess what the average miles per hour or the rush hour speed is in the congestion zone?
11.8.
7.
7. Oh, God.
Can you walk? How fast can you walk? You walk like 3.5 miles per hour, right?
Yeah, 3, 4, 5 miles.
I mean, so like just double walking. Like if you had a scooter, I'm for sure you could go faster than 7 miles an hour. And I will say, at one point, I said, just let me out here. I can walk the last 5 blocks when we sat through like 6 lights, and I'm like, I have somewhere to be. 3 miles an hour, yeah. And I did. I said, just charge me for the rest of the way. Just let me out. I definitely can walk faster than we're going now. And so basically, this is a test program. It would be New York would be the first one in all of the United States to practice this congestion pricing. But they're saying if it goes well, we might see other cities doing it. Now, my other question, so one question I have is, if you're in an Uber, you're technically in a passenger car. So then am I just the consumer? Am I just eating that cost now on top of my Uber cost? And then second, they want you to use public transit. The entire time I was there, as a single young lady, I didn't get on the subway. How many murders have been on the...
Nope.
Yeah, so if that's... Fix your safety if you want people to use public transit. Don't charge me more. Would you get on the subway?
Yeah, because you're not always going to have a Daniel Penny around to save you,
Exactly.
man. And that's the Morning Bell Business News little twist that only Stephanie Bell can do for you.
Has America been fair to Donald Trump? The people always know what's going on.
will see you tomorrow night.
The greatest thing I have ever seen during my lifetime as a Cardinal. The night back in 2011, the Cardinals were down 9th inning, Game 6, about to lose the World Series. The Texas Rangers, 9th inning, triples to send the game into extra innings and extra innings. The dude homers, talking about David Freese. And now Cardinals want to induct him into the Hall of Fame, and David Freese is saying, no thanks. This blows me away, John. What is your take on this?
Yeah, it was kind of... And when we remember back to the days of David Freese, remember when he was playing for the Redbirds in Major League Ball? He was kind of upfront about having chronic depression and all. I wonder if he's having some issues with that again.
Well, and he said in making his statement, he says, listen, I'm appreciative of what Cardinals Nation and the team and the city has done for me. You know, he grew up Cardinals fan, grew up here in Missouri. But he said he did not feel, and that's interesting because he said he didn't feel deserving. And I get it because Hannah, one of the things Hannah tells me all the time, once in a great while, somebody here in the building will compliment me. And what do? I try to give somebody else credit. I'm like, well, it was all Stephanie and Houseworth and Marsh. And Hannah's got to tell me sometimes, she's like, Rathert.
Just take the compliment, dude.
Yes.
But it's hard to do.
And you walked away with a Zimmy?
She did.
Just one, though.
You did. Congratulations. Yes.
Stop it, guys. Come on, man. That's not what the point I'm trying to make here.
So the award was it was like an opinion piece, right?
I do happen to have it pulled up, actually.
Of course.
We're in a big room full of our peers, our coworkers, and they start to play Brandon's opinion piece over the loudspeakers, and it got a little uncomfortable.
And it got cut off.
Yeah.
Well, because we were talking about, and every year at this thing, so I went for opinion piece. So sometimes you're talking about things that might be uncomfortable, and you got to realize there's a whole bunch of people from other radio stations and stuff. And like the year before that, it gets right on, and the racist and blah, blah, blah. And this year was something about a god. Do you just want to move? Do you want me to play it here, Hannah?
Yeah,
the whole thing? 4 minutes.
Just the juicy part.
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert.
Jesus forgives our debts. If Jesus can forgive our debts, then why can't we forgive the debts of these borrowers? That's what I was trying to say in a long-winded way. What's your view on that? That's their new argument.
It's Christopher Arps, by the way.
Mm-hmm. That's my view. You're going to say, because if you believe in a whatever God you believe in, your God is a forgiving God, yet you don't forgive student debt?
Yeah, you're a hypocrite. That's what they're coming back with on this.
So when they play it at this event with everybody in the building, it was just, well, your God. That's like the only part you could hear was like you couldn't hear anything else. Just like every time I said the word God in all of that, it's like that was the only thing you could hear, and the look around the room.
Context.
Yeah.
There's like 3 things you're not supposed to talk about: politics, religion, and
her. Sammy Kershaw country song. Politics, religion, and her. So that was the other night. But David Freese, I'm wondering, like, it's hard. And Steph, I imagine you're the same way. You don't take compliments very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably. I like a gold star. Like, I like a rubric.
Yeah.
You know, I like winning in court where the judge tells me I'm right. But just like out of the blue, like this morning, Brandon, you look like a nurse today. Which he said, he meant it as a compliment. I'm wearing tennis shoes with dress pants, which I think is like nurse-like.
And
but
like a smock, you're wearing almost like a nurse's.
A smock?
I'm not wearing a smock. It's really cold in here. What about you, Brian? You like compliments?
Oh, I think we all do. I mean, you know.
But do you take a compliment well? Because whenever you get complimented, some people, they say thank you and move on. Mm. And some people are like, oh, well, it was everybody else that did it.
I think it just depends. I mean, I don't think I have a set way. I mean, I think I certainly am appreciative of any compliments and also any constructive criticism too. But on your point about David Freese, I do think I met him right after the World Series. When they won the World Series, he came to Moberly. A lot of people, and I was the MC. So I got to meet him. He could not have been a more humble person. And I didn't notice any depression. He was asking about a pizza place in Moberly. I will tell you that the crowd of young women there in their 20s and 30s to see him, it was
he's
huge.
a good-looking dude.
Oh my God, it was like they weren't there to see Mike Shannon and me. They were there to see David Freese, but he could not have been more humble. But I kind of think it's a situation where he feels like he doesn't deserve it. And I do believe he deserves it. I think if it wasn't for David Freese, who played the cut there from Joe Buck, they don't win that World Series. They do not.
And he's always downplayed his role in it.
He has. And you're right. I believe it was maybe depression or some things like that. But I'm guessing that was it. But he was very humble, and he was very excited to. That's the largest crowd the 3 years I worked in Moberly by far I ever saw at a place.
This might be an unpopular opinion, but I feel like him declining, it feels a little self-serving, a little bit like fishing for compliments, because what are we doing now? We're talking about how, he deserves to be in there, and he's, greatest moment in Cardinals baseball history. Feels a little bit like stirring it up so he gets more praise. I don't know.
So I hear what you're saying there. You go, I'm just so humble.
It feels like fishing for compliments.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know, Hannah. I really don't think so. I certainly respect your opinion. If you look at Derek Gould and Katie Wu and some of the other beat writers for the, they don't have any more insight than really us have on the show. But I thought there was a comment at the end. If you look at their reporting, look at the comment at the end from Bill DeWitt. And I don't know if this is a clue or if it's anything, but DeWitt says in those articles he's always welcome at Busch Stadium. He's always that, and I don't know if he's just saying that to make him feel welcome, or maybe David doesn't feel welcome there. I don't know, but I think it's more along the lines of he doesn't feel like he deserves it. That's just my gut feeling. And there were what people forget: Steve Carlton, Edgar Renteria. There were some huge names that were also on that list, and it's just I've never seen anyone get that honor and decline it.
Here's what I would say to David Freese. I'd say to David Freese, you realize the pitcher Max Lanier is going in to the Hall of Fame. Steph, you've heard of David Freese? You ever heard of Max Lanier? Hannah?
No.
Yeah, Max Lanier. I'd say, come on, David. Max Lanier is going in.
Hey, Jose Oquendo's on the list.
Jose Oquendo's on the list. But basically, David, and factually, listen, greatest moment ever in Cardinals history, that 2011, the entire playoffs, what he did there.
It was huge.
Is he a Hall of Fame player? He's, an average player.
The Cardinal fans are the ones who voted him number one on the list for this year. It's That's like, hey, man, take the compliment and run with it.
And he won, apparently, in a landslide. And again, I think if it were older people, and a lot of the older people passed away, Steve Carlton would probably win. To be honest, I probably would have voted for Steve Carlton. But the bottom line is I think that without him, they don't win that World Series. It's the last time they won. And, John, you're spot on. That's what the fans wanted. So,
can they induct him after he dies? Because then he can't decline.
They
right?
can.
Leave it up to a lawyer to figure it out.
There you go.
Damn it, David, you're going to be in there whether you like it or not.
Yeah, but Harry Carey once said, if you're going to put me in when I'm dead, I don't want it. I remember him saying that. He was very adamant. So Jack Buck went in before Harry Carey, as I recall, too.
From David, rumor is he didn't think he deserved it, basically having a year and a half and 3 weeks of great play. If he says that and he has the guts to admit that he didn't deserve it based on that, I think he deserves it more for being honest and realistic about what he was or wasn't.
And maybe there's other fans that are telling him he didn't deserve it. I just, if they're, again, I don't follow it as closely as I've got my hands full with news. If there are people that are saying that out there, that maybe that bothered him, I'm not aware of it, but
he played for a lot of teams. Maybe he's got some divided loyalties there to the Angels or the Pirates.
That certainly could be another factor. You're right. He did spend time at Pittsburgh and out west.
Hey, we're getting really excited around Wake Up Mid-Missouri here because coming up just a few days from now, this Feel Good Friday, it is our annual Central Missouri Honor Flight Radiothon with A1 Containers. Extreme Body and Paint is doing some cool stuff. As a matter of fact, you donate $300. That basically, if you make a $300 donation, that will send a veteran to Washington, D.C. And these veterans, they've been struggling with their experiences over the years, especially a lot of the ones that saw like frontline battle. And they go on these honor flights, man, and it's beautiful what happens, and you can help that happen. This Feel Good Friday, you donate $300. You're going to get a Central Missouri Honor Flight Radiothon T-shirt thanks to Extreme Body and Paint, and we're really hoping you do this. Do you have a picture of a veteran somewhere? I'm thinking I got pictures of my mom and dad, and I think of my grandfather. I got pictures of veterans. You got a picture of a veteran? Go to our website, 939theeagle.com or KWOS.com. You can upload a picture of your veteran, tell us a few words about them, and then Pro Pumping and Hydrojetting, as we talked this morning, they're building like a wall of honor. Some other folks that are helping us out, Allied Sewing and Services, Graff & Sons, Downtown Appliance, Aurora Organic Dairy. Coming up just about 5 minutes from now, we'll do some leftovers, and do want to get to, because I think this is worth getting to, Mike Pence, former VP, running for president, asked by MSNBC's Chuck Todd. They're talking about Trump supporters.
How do you convince them? Because he's angry at you, they're angry at you.
How do you convince Trump supporters to get on board with what it is you're doing? And I thought he kind of had an interesting answer. We'll do that 5 minutes from now when we do some leftovers. And then this yesterday, MSNBC, Chuck Todd asking about Trump supporters. How are you going to get them to support you? And I thought it was kind of interesting the way that Pence answered the question.
How do you convince them? Because he's angry at you, they're angry at you.
Well, look, I think that the people around the country, as I've traveled the last 2 years, have in the main.
Okay, so why I think his answer is so interesting, he's not prepared to answer that question. Obviously, you can tell. And that is totally unedited. I did not do anything to fix that, John. He doesn't know how to answer that question. And it would occur to me, if he really is serious about trying to be president, that maybe he ought to come up with an answer for that question, because I'm guessing he might be asked this a time or two between now and August of 2024. He just seemed completely unsure. What do you got for leftovers, Steph?
Well, a friend turned me on to this yesterday. It is Juneteenth, so if you're looking for some extra history today, it's Kathy Williams, Cathay. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. She's the only known female Buffalo soldier. So my friend was reading a book about the Buffalo soldiers, and apparently she spent some time in and around Jefferson City before disguising herself and enlisting in the Army. So I've been Googling and reading up on. You said you need more women in politics, and I think it's a really interesting story. She has connections to Mid-Missouri. So if you're taking the day off and history's like your thing, I think she's kind of an interesting person to read about.
And what's her name again?
Kathy Williams, Cathay. And then I think, when she registered for the Army, she enlisted under a pseudonym William Cathay.
How about that? I love that kind of stuff. And I do. I think that I think we'd be better off with more women in politics, because they're better at negotiating and being able to bend a little bit on issues. And I've said that for a long, long time. Marsh, what you got for leftovers?
I guess moral of the story, a dangerous weekend at the lake. We had a 6-year-old from Stover end up at University Hospital after crashing a go-kart. 6-year-old and go-karts, probably not a good combination. Cole County guy suspected of DWI after crashing into a cop car in Osage Beach, and then a man from Arnold hospitalized after getting drunk, apparently, and falling in the lake.
I know, and I always wonder about people like that. You come to the lake for the weekend, you never know what you're going to get. Hopefully these people are going to be okay. But when I saw the story about the dude from Arnold, they found him just floating in the water, apparently, and it said he was intoxicated. I'm like, dude, you're going back to, and all your friends are going to know you got so drunk that you ended up in the paper. That's not how you want to handle your business. You live. Yeah, you live, but that's not how you want to handle your business when you go to the lake for the weekend.
Also, some exciting news from this weekend. A friend of the show I know, his name's Bill, and his daughter competed in the Miss Missouri pageant. Katie Farr, she's from Jefferson City. She ended up winning, I think, the evening gown and the talent. She ended up winning a bunch of scholarship money and second runner-up. So really exciting for a Mid-Missouri woman.
Good job, Farr family.
Yeah.
How about that? I also thought this was interesting, because this is something we have covered in depth here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. A couple of months ago, we had people texting us pictures of expired temporary tags. And I think we got several from expired tags from the year of 2020, and maybe even one from 2019. I can't remember what the oldest one was. St. Louis Post-Dispatch has a piece. Somebody apparently so frustrated in the St. Louis area that they went, and they're saying, don't do this. Technically, it's against the law. You get you ticketed. But saw somebody with a tag that had been expired since January of 2021, so full 2.5 years. So this person went over, ripped off the temporary tag, and then sent a picture of it to the Post-Dispatch because they were so concerned about what other people were doing or weren't doing. This guy says, quote, I'm an old man, but I got a big thrill like a kid opening Christmas presents when I ripped that tag off the car. I've wanted to do it for a long time, but never had the chance. Tag's been on the car so long they are faded and rust is around the screw holes. Yep, you can call me a cantankerous old fart from South St. Louis.
With a tampering with a motor vehicle ticket to go with it.
That's right.
I was going to ask you, Brandon, how many times on today's show did you say, don't do this? So don't rip people's temp tags off. Don't move barricades and make your own route across the road for it.
All the stuff we're getting a kick out of this morning, don't do that. Don't redirect traffic to your liking.
Don't ask Stephanie how old she is.
Yes.
Don't ask Steph how old she is. Don't redirect traffic around the Rocheport Bridge there over the Missouri River, and don't yank people's temporary license plates off the cars. All right, tomorrow on the show, Christopher Arps, chrisarps.com, going to be joining us. And if you could do us a favor, tell your friends about our big 93.9 The Eagle and KWOS Central Missouri Honor Flight Radiothon with A1 Containers coming up this Feel Good Friday with friends like State Farm agent Phyllis Nichols, High Street Dentistry, Brian Ware Plumbing. Going to send veterans to D.C. with your help on a Feel Good Friday. My dad's favorite show, Nolan, is next. See ya.
Bye.
Everything is the way it is. It's got to be the way it is. Everything is the way it is. It's got to be like you say.